Hi, welcome everyone to the sewing workshop. This is the first in a series of how to do ruffle skirts, and this is one which has a very simple kind of yoga waistband, but this is actually shaped and goes down to the hips. So this sits on the hips and then you get this lovely very full skirt here. But the clue with this one, working with this one, and I'm going to show you how to do the pattern in a minute, is that we have got a wide jersey piece. This part here goes lower down, so effectively connects to the next layer, and by making this a little bit wider you get a little bit more here if you gather the same amount. And then the last layer is going to be not like this. You should do it in one. There's no need to have like two tiny little layers like that. We're just going to do one layer in one, and then you have a beautiful tiered little skirt. So I'm going to now start by showing you how you draw your pattern. Right, I'm ready to draw my pattern. Are you? I've got my ruler, got my pencil, got my paper. So first of all I draw one line across, and by the way, anyone that knows where I can get this paper in the US online and order it, please let me know in the comments, because I don't know when I'm running out. Anyway, I'm going to also draw a line down and up. I have got a waist measurement of 21 and I've got hips of 23. I'm going to go for 21, so I'm quartering it. That's 5 1/4. So if I go for 4.5 inches on either side, I'm actually going to have a really nice start here. That's my waist, 4.5 inches. So I'm going like 3 inches in from what we've got. So if the waist measurement is like 25, then you might want to make it 22, as it's going to be way too big because we're having very stretchy jersey. So the next thing then is to allow for the little bit of elastic I'm going to put in there. I'm going to draw a line down here and a line there. So I'm going to come up basically on both sides from this, and then depending on how much elastic I'm going to put in, Ella suggests 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So now the next measurement we want to go down is just a little bit, so we have got this nice little flat bit before the ruffles start. I think that is so much prettier than the ruffles starting straight at the waist. So we're going to go down 7 centimeters. Do we think that that is okay? Well, I think that's fine. Maybe we want to add 1 centimeter seam allowance to it, because that looks perfect to me. And now I do the same here. I'm going to go for 20 instead of 23, so it's smaller, and I'm going to divide that by 4, and 20 divided by 4, that's really easy for me, isn't it, is 5. Here 5 inches to there. So basically this is going to come out in a bit of a curve. Fold my paper over because I want to transfer this to the other side here. So I can just cut this now. There. Go up. All done. Now I can fold this back out. You fold this over. Now comes the interesting part. You need to decide how wide you want your ruffle to be. I'm going to go for 4 inches, which means I need 5 inches to include the seam allowance. So I'm going to make my ruffle 5 inches long, but it's actually only going to be 4, okay, from here to there. So I want my lining to end here, okay, so that the next ruffle can then come from that. So I'm going to just keep going here a little bit lower down, because I don't want this to be like tight to the body shape, but it's just an elongation really from what we've just drawn. So I'm going to draw this across here, make sure it's nice and straight. And a lot of you always ask, oh, can you show us how to draw a pattern? Well, actually, there's a lot to draw in a pattern and it's not that easy, but I think this you can handle. Okay, So let's put this away. Let's have a look. Fold this over. And now I know this is where my ruffle goes, and my ruffle has to be 5 inches wide. And then for my tiers, I'm making myself just a pattern piece like this. We've got one which is 5 inches wide and one which is 7 inches wide, or we're just working with one and we just fold it away. Now, of course, when I made my skirt, live and learn, I've realized that actually making a connector, this was my first idea for this, isn't really appropriate like this. It doesn't really work that well. So if you just make the last tier 7 inches wide, by the time you've got the seam allowances off, this will be the entire width here from there to there. So you don't need that. That was really complicated and difficult to do. So what you actually need is 1 for the top tier, 2 for the next one down, and 3 to 4 for the lower tier. So cut those out for yourself. We need 2 of these. So I'm going to cut these out. There it is. Make sure you put a snip in here so that you know where your elastic's going to go, right? That's there. Excellent. So now with the right sides together, in my case I needed to quickly turn this, we're going to sew that side seam together. Give it a quick press, both sides. I love this American safety feature. It keeps turning itself off. I don't like it. I just want it to stay on all day when I'm working. And then all the water runs everywhere when it turns itself off. See? That's all getting wet. Because I can never wait. Look how cute this looks. I think you probably won't even need an elastic in it. I'm just thinking I'm not even going to put one in. I think this is like gorgeous. I mean, look. We don't need no elastic, right? So first ruffle goes on here. So the first thing to do is to just sew these together so you get in one long strip. And the next step, looms already. I have put them together. I've also overlocked it so that it's all nice and clean, and I've overlocked the lower part, and I'm going to turn this up and just stitch this through, sewing it all up. So ruffles are all ready. So now I can go back to my jersey, and I know this bit closest to the snip is the one where my first ruffle is going to be sewn on, and I'm going to put this just under the machine and ruffle it as I go. So let's have a look at how that works. So this is what happens when you don't press record. I've sewn on my first layer really nicely and then wanted to press stop record, and I actually hadn't recorded at all. Oh no. So anyway, this is what my first layer looks like. Totally super cute on there. Oh my word. And that was not hard at all. All I have to do now is overlock all the way around this edge so it's all clean. Quick overlock. The interesting part is to get the next ruffle layer on, of course, and that goes on here. So here, of course, make sure that you get it on this way, so basically right on left, because if you don't do that, obviously it's going to be the wrong way around. And then I'm just going to put with the wrong side upwards my jersey fabric underneath the foot all the way at the bottom. And then over the top, the bit that I'm going to ruffle in, there's like this gap, and the little teeth of the ruffler will just catch it and go. And the setting for this I have used is the number 1, and my dial, the orange dial that is all the way up to 0. As far as it will go, that's enough gather. And then I just work my way all the way around. When you come to the end, you can either overlap it or you can stop just a little bit off. It doesn't really matter too much, and then we can do the seam. Whichever you prefer. Here it's just overlapped, so I'm going over, and I'm also having a seam right where my overlap is, and that's not brilliant. But in theory, you can now cut off the excess fabric. You always have some left over. It's much better than being too short in your fabric. Always have a longer strip than you need. And there you go, just sew those together and overlock. Like the join there, actually, you know, you kind of want to actually, I think I'm gonna, if you have that like I do here, I think I'm gonna just cut this off. If you get to that, I mean, I'm so close, I'm just not gonna have a ruffle there, because that is so obvious, isn't it, this thing? I'm going to cut this off like that, and then I'm just gonna release it a bit and sort of kind of pretend ruffle it. You just need to help yourself with these things. Don't think it's all written in stone and oh, you can't, you know, mash things up a bit. So I'm going to overlock this then. Lovely. I have to say, I think this is absolutely gorgeous. The problem is with getting the next layer onto this is that it's like not going to go through my little machine. And I had to gather this individually now because that makes more sense. But please remember that this is the green 7-inch wide layer you're doing here, and also you would have overlocked the edge and turned it up. It's just that I didn't do that. Live and learn things. So this is the last layer that goes on. Then that layer is put on here. Again, we have right side on wrong side when we put this on, and we just sew that on with a regular sewing machine, and we're basically done. What I did was put this as a connector and attach the green part to it, which is the last layer, and that was really, really tough to do, so don't do that. Do it like I say here. So you sew that last layer on. So, gone round. Here's my thing. I can cut off what I don't need. There we go. Cut off the other side as well. Straight. I can now overlock this together, and then I overlock the whole lot. And the final layer is on. And here you can see all of it together. Of course, the green one would go all the way in. It's 7 inches long. It doesn't have a connector. So at this point now we can say super. It's very, very nice. I absolutely love this. We need to find here the little snip so that sits right in the top edge where the waistband would be. And then I find my snip on the other side and I do exactly the same. I move it in, and then I'm going to pin it because we're going to sew in that groove. If you were to put an elastic in here, which I'm actually not going to bother with, I would just sew the elastic in, push it in there, and then stitch it down the side seam to hold this all in place. What I am still going to do is stitch in the side seam here, so that this can't go anywhere. So I'm just stitching this down on either side, and that will be super comfy as well as super cute. So we've got the waist here, it sits on the hips, and then but it is a little bit too much poof. And now we're going to sew in there. It's very important that you move the fabric as far apart as you can so that when it's released again, the stitching that you do cannot be seen. And then you go as far down as you're comfortable with. If it's an elastic in the top, then you only do it the width of the elastic, of course. I hope that you join me again next week for the sewing workshop where we're going to make a woven ruffle skirt. Bye.